I want to say just one other thing, because I think it's important to reflect on how each of our respective campaigns is making our pitch to the American people, because I think it says a lot about who the candidates themselves are. We're not just voting red team versus blue team. We're voting for a person who's going to be president of the United States. I'd like to compare my running mate to the person at the top of the Democratic ticket. Remember, we all saw it a few months ago when President Trump took a bullet to the ear, nearly killed the man, and stood up seconds later and raised his fist in the air in defiance. We all remember that moment. How can we forget it? Half of you have it printed on your T-shirts, it looks like, but you should, because it was a proud moment. But here's the other thing. Something you probably haven't heard is about a month later, during the second assassination attempt on President Trump's life, and it's crazy to even say that, but it happened. I was sitting at home with my son in Cincinnati, and I get a call, and it's the president. And I said, "Hey, sir, what's going on?" He said, "JD, they just tried to do it again." And I said, "They tried to do what again?" He said, "They tried to shoot me again." And this was well before the news had become public. I guess I was the first person that he called to tell. And I said, "Well, how are you doing, sir? I mean, clearly, physically, you're okay, but, how are you doing? That's a pretty traumatic thing that just happened." And he said, "Oh, I'm doing fine. I'm kind of pissed off because they wouldn't let me finish my round of golf. I was about to make a birdie on the 6th hole. I'm dead serious." That's what he said. I was more tore up about it than he was. And I realized in that moment that this is the kind of person that you actually want in the Oval Office of the United States of America. Because, look, it's not an easy job, my friends. It's a stressful job, but who do we want in the Oval Office? Do we want a person who runs away from friendly American media interviews, or do we want a person who shows literal courage under fire? That's Donald J. Trump, and that's our president, and we're going to make him the whole country's president in just one short week. But that is the kind of man that is at the top of the Republican ticket. And let's compare how the Democrats are making their closing message to the American people. Because I don't think that I've ever seen a more disgraceful closing argument than what I've seen from Kamala Harris and Tim Walz. And look, it's fine. Look, politics is politics. I volunteered for this job. Criticize me, attack me, insult me. It's what I signed up for. But don't you dare insult the brave Americans who are fighting for this movement. Don't attack the voters of the United States of America. And that's what Kamala Harris is doing. Because you know what they compared just 2 days ago? We had this incredible rally, over 100,000 people at Madison Square Garden in New York City. It was an incredible thing. We had patriots from all over the country showing up, speaking, volunteering, and of course we had over 100,000 New Yorkers who showed up for the rally itself. And you know what Governor Tim Walz and the entire Democrat machine have been comparing that rally to? A Nazi rally from the 1930s. They've been calling, rather than persuade their fellow Americans, they've decided that they're going to call their fellow Americans Nazis and fascists, and I think it's disgusting. And a person who would close out her campaign by running and attacking her fellow Americans has no business leading the greatest nation on earth. And it occurs to me that when they attack us as Nazis, it's so disgraceful because there are people in this room right now who have grandparents, who have parents, or who they themselves fought in World War II. I met a World War II veteran literally 10 minutes ago, 15 minutes ago, and there he is right there. Thank you, sir. God bless you. And you think about this. This is a man who actually fought real Nazis, who actually cared enough about this country to put his life on the line for it. And you think about when Kamala Harris calls us Nazis, I couldn't help but think about this brave gentleman in the front row. I couldn't help but go and look at a photo of the people who stormed Normandy back in June of 1944. And I wonder, do you think those men today would like how their reputation and their brave and heroic deeds were being used by Kamala Harris's campaign? Here's my honest view. If you think that the men who stormed the beaches at Normandy did it to give taxpayer-funded sex changes to illegal aliens, do you think that the men who stormed the beaches at Normandy did it to ship all of our good manufacturing jobs off to China? Do you think the men who stormed the beaches at Normandy did it for a president who wants to open the American southern border? I don't think so. And in fact, I think that if you believe those men were fighting for taxpayer-funded sex changes and to open the American southern border, the technical term to describe you is a dipshit. And that is... So my message to Kamala Harris is, why don't you try persuading your fellow citizens? Why don't you try talking about how you're going to lower grocery prices? Why don't you try talking about how you're going to undo your own disastrous border policies? Do not dare go in front of the cameras and call your fellow citizens Nazis. If you want to lead this country, act like a leader and stop insulting your fellow citizens. And with all gratitude to everybody who served, with all gratitude to everybody who, of course, you're here, so I'm assuming that you're at least open to voting for the Trump-Vance ticket, but I think by the applause, more than open to it. I want us to not do what Kamala Harris is doing. And I want us to actually follow President Trump's lead here because, yeah, President Trump can dish it out as well as anybody. He's the best counterpuncher in American politics. But when President Trump goes after his political opponents, he goes after Kamala Harris and he goes after Tim Walz. He criticizes the people who stepped into the arena, which again is his right to do. Every person who steps into the arena asks for it. But you know what Donald Trump doesn't do? Donald Trump doesn't attack everybody who's going to vote for the other side as a fascist or a Nazi. He doesn't demean his fellow citizens, even the ones who aren't going to vote for him. And so I'd ask us to follow that lead. Let's give Kamala Harris and Tim Walz hell. Let's remind the American people that they can't afford groceries or housing because of the policies of Kamala Harris. Let's remind our fellow citizens that the open border is because Kamala Harris has failed to do her job. But let's remember that after we win, we are all the part of a great American family. And yes, even the people who voted against Kamala Harris, we love them and we want their peace and their prosperity too. Thank you. God bless you, Michigan.